Hey, what's going on, you guys? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to my reviews slash thoughts on Uncharted. I have like 13 different bullet points that I want to get through so that way I'm not completely rambling, but also express some of my mainly dislikes about the movie. But there are some things that I like, so I will point that out as well. And you guys might be able to hear like the wind and the trees outside my window. Hurricane Ian is moving through. Not in the heart of it, so at least I don't think I'm in any real danger. But for those of you that um are in the hurricane's path, wishing you guys best of luck. Stay safe, do the right thing, and yeah, let's get into this review. So my first thought after rewatching the film today, towards the beginning of the movie, we kind of see like Nate in that freaking big set piece from Uncharted 3, where he's hanging out the back of this airplane, and then we cut to kind of like a flashback, and I was half expecting the dude to be in diapers, because like you see how young freaking young Nate slash Tom Holland is. Like he's not that old, so what are we really flashing back to? But I don't know. This kind of moves into my next point. No, it does not. But we're gonna go with my next point anyway. The whole like this is a young Nate story. They did not really do that. They kind of just told us that so that way they could cast a younger actor, which I don't know, man. Like, if you're going to make a young Nate story, and I said this when I made my trailer review video, if you're going to make a young Nate story, then make it something that did happen to Nathan Drake when he was younger. And we never really we never really fully explored what happened in that scenario, or just make something completely new. That's why when I was writing my notes, I'm like, I can't believe I'm about to give credit to the show. But to the Halo show, which I feel like I also have to talk about at some point, so I have to rewatch it. That's the whole thing. But regardless of what the Halo show did to Master Chief and some of the other characters in the show, I will give them the credit that they at least gave me something that I had not seen before, or at least something that was interesting to me that involved Halo. The Uncharted movie, they literally took three different scenarios from Uncharted 1, 2, and 3 and tried to make the biggest, most like aesthetically pleasing set pieces work together, which I don't really think they did that well. I was on the journey that they were on, but I didn't really feel like the purpose behind it other than just like, oh, Uncharted fans are gonna recognize these things. So at least on the Halo shows, to the Halo show's credit, they at least did that where they gave us an original adventure with Master Chief, or an alternate version of Master Chief. And they developed something that was interesting at times. I'll say that was interesting at times. Moving on though to my actual, I guess this is now my third point. My notes. Young Nate is just Peter Parker. I hate to say it, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but young Nate is literally just Peter Parker. And I actually, the whole reason why I wanted to come back and make this video, even though the Uncharted movie came out a long time ago, was because I was watching another review for this film, and somebody had the exact same thought that I had, which I had not heard anybody express before, which was young Nate is literally Peter Parker. He's played almost exactly the same way, and I don't know if it's the director's fault. I don't know if Tom Holland couldn't really take direction, or if that's like, his staple, like what he's comfortable in playing as. Either way, I felt like I was watching Peter Parker imitate Nathan Drake in this movie, and that is not what anybody wanted at all. Even with the excuse of like a young Nate. Like, I don't think a young Nate equals Peter Parker. So that was very disappointing throughout the whole entire film. There were like glimpses of what I felt like, oh, like maybe a young Nate would do something like this, but for the most part, it was like that quirky Peter Parker with a hint of like playboy slash like I can't even throw suave out there, but like kind of the love eyes kind of thing, I guess. Uh, I don't know. That was just one of the most disappointing things for me because I feel like Tom Holland being cast as Nathan Drake was a mistake in my opinion. I like Tom Holland's Spider-Man. I don't know if I've seen any of his other films, but I enjoy him as Spider-Man. I think he's a talented actor. Definitely a talented acrobatist or gymnast or whatever you want to call it. So it makes sense why he would be cast as Nathan Drake because he has like the skills. But as far as like the personality or at least what he's presented acting wise goes, I don't think that was a good match. And that's probably the most important attribute in my opinion. Like you could just get a stunt double to do the rest of the thing and just boost the VFX budget so that way you can like CGI the actor's face onto a stunt double's face. And everybody would walk away a little bit more happy with the product, I feel. At least like Uncharted fans like myself would be. But you know, what's done is done, and who knows what's gonna happen in the future. My next point, which is a pretty big one, Mark Wahlberg as Sully, Victor Sullivan, was a terrible casting choice. It was a terrible casting choice. I'm sorry for those that like are a fan of Mark Wahlberg. I personally am not. I've seen a few of his films. I saw the Infinity thing. I don't know where he like got powers, was going back in time or whatever. I saw that and I was like, it wasn't a great film, but even then I didn't like him in it. I haven't liked him in very many things now that I like started thinking about like Mark Wahlberg in this and I guess just as an actor. And I was like, I just don't like his performances. But regardless, besides my bias, he just was not a good pick for this because you know Sully is an older guy. He's got the mustache. You know, it's iconic for him. Not saying he absolutely had to have the mustache, but Sully is not 100% like an asshole, you know? I feel like Mark Wahlberg played him like, you know, I'm a jerk. I'm the kind of guy that you don't want to have on an expedition where you have to trust people to try and freaking steal some treasure. If anything, I feel like he could have been almost like a Sam in a way because Nathan can't really ever trust Sam. Sam's always kind of got his own interest at heart, and not to say that like, you know, Nathan and Sam haven't accomplished things together, but he was always kind of the wild card that's like, you know, are you gonna be my brother today or are you gonna stab me in the back? Like, which one is it? I still wouldn't cast him as Sam, but I feel like out of all the roles he could have had for the movie, even though Sam wasn't a big part, I feel like he was more of a Sam than a Sully. But Sully to me, he's like a snappy kind of, he's the suave that I was looking for earlier. He's like a suave, snappy, um, like still capable. Like Mark Wahlberg, he was fighting in this movie, I guess, a little bit. The parkour stuff, he was not doing. With Sully, he kind of doesn't really do it either, but I feel like push comes to shove, you'll see him do it. I don't know. I just didn't like him as Sully. I know other people don't. It just seemed like a really big jerk. Just a really big jerk. And nah, yeah, I think that's it at that point. I just did not like his casting as Sully, and it just seemed like Nathan had literally no allies for most of this film until at the end Sully decides to do the right thing for once. I guess I don't know. He just got lucky. Nate got lucky that day and he decided to do the right thing, but for the most part it seemed like Nate was on his own, which was unfortunate because I feel like he, not towards the beginning of the series, well, especially as like the first game onward through the series, he starts to build these connections with these characters, and I really come to love Sully. I would not think that Sully would betray Nate if another game were to come out at this point, which Naughty Dog's focus on other things right now. But yeah, I can't say anything more than I just don't think he was a good pick. This next point I did have to give them because I actually really liked her performance. I made sure to look this up. Sophia Taylor, Allie, playing Chloe Fraser. I thought she did a good job. especially with like the kind of like the romantic tension between her portrayal of Chloe and Tom Holland's portrayal of Nate. I really believe that, and I was like, they if they could actually trust each other, I feel like they could have something going. Of course, it wouldn't really last because Elena is who Nate ends up with at the end of the day. Or if you didn't know that, now you know, I guess. Did I mention this is a spoiler review? Did I mention that? I probably should mention that. But yeah, I really liked how she portrayed like that kind of relationship. But I also liked how capable she was, and it seemed like she could totally handle things on her own. And um, she was one of the more believable characters in the movie purely because she saw Sully's true colors. He had betrayed her in the past. We didn't see that, but just through the dialogue, we know that they were on a job together. Things didn't work out. Sully betrayed her, and she actually did something about it. She's like, you know what? Sully put me in a bad position, so I'm gonna join this because I know that what they're working on is gonna lead me to my ultimate goal, and then I'm gonna bounce to somebody who I guess I can't really trust, but I know that at least we got our goals aligned. Like, there's no reason for you to try and stab me in the back. So yeah, I thought she did really well. Her character was very believable, very close to what I think like Chloe was like when she was introduced in Uncharted, and I like her a lot. Another good cast. I thought Antonio Banderas was an interesting villain. He had a couple weird moments, especially towards the end of his role in the film, where I'm like, oh, a little interesting there. But for the most part, I thought it was really interesting and having like the whole family dynamic for him as far as it being a goal for why he's doing what he's doing. It makes sense, family pushes you to do a lot of things. And I really enjoyed his performance as the villain, even though we didn't get to see a whole lot of him, I guess, but he always felt present, if that makes sense. Like, we didn't visually see him, but we just felt like, he was still moving pieces when we couldn't see him. Moving on to another casting choice, I thought that Tati Gabrielle, I'm sorry if I mispronounced that, as Joe, who was the real villain of this film, was all right. And I don't really think it was on her as far as just like my thoughts of the character being all right. I think it's more so the writing and us not really getting to know her as the villain. Like, we thought Antonio Banderas' character Santiago was the villain the whole time, and we really got to know him and like what his motives are for getting this treasure back. But we didn't really get to know Joe. All we know about Joe is that she got screwed over by Sully in the past, and so that's why she's not working with Sully anymore. I see the pattern going here. And so she went with what she thought was going to be a winning team so that she could get the goal that she wanted at the end of the day. But that's pretty much Chloe's story. And so if you're going to have two characters with a very similar story and one of them is going to be the bad guy, it's kind of like, well, why isn't Chloe also a bad guy? Or what is the real motivation here as to why she's like the bad guy of this film? I don't know. I really would have liked it if they had expanded on her character a bit more and gave us reason. Like, I don't know if she like really hated Sully and that's why she absolutely had to get this treasure, or if this was just like the treasure on her radar that she had no other lead, so she's like going for it. I don't know. I wish they would have expanded on that a little bit more, because like the villain, people love to hate the villain, but I don't think you can love to hate them if you don't understand what their motives are. I have multiple notes. I'm just looking now. I have multiple notes on like why Sully is not cool in this movie. So I guess we're just gonna group my earlier Sully segment into that. Okay, next note. So Joe killing Santiago makes sense, I guess, if we think about it in the context of, Santiago is going to probably take all the gold for himself. And so Joe needed to get Santiago out of the way so that he couldn't claim like his family gold or whatever. But it also felt just kind of random in the movie. Like, he was giving the speech, like, we're finally going to get this gold that my family's owed. And, like, I've been working on this for years. Like, nobody else in my family's done this but me. And this just goes over and slits his throat. And, like, Joe? Like, are you what? Um, so her just like last minute becoming the villain just felt like very weird to do at the end of the film. Like, it would have been different if they had like planted little seeds, like, oh, Joe's not really on Santiago's side, which I guess she really wasn't. But I didn't think she would go so far as just like kill him just for giving a speech. Like, I don't know. There were no like seeds sown there. It's like Joe's gonna end up doing this, or like you should watch out for Joe. It just kind of happened. It makes sense, but it also it felt weird. It felt weird. Like I wanted a little more, but My next plus is like a plus minus almost because Noah North had a cameo in this film. And if you don't know, if you aren't aware, Noah North is the voice actor for Nathan Drake. Excuse my garbage disposal. I guess it's time for dinner. But Noah North is the voice actor for Nathan Drake, so it was very cool to see him get some kind of role in this film, however small that it was. He makes a little comment like, "Oh, you fell out of a plane. Like something similar happened to me back in the day." Reason it's like kind of a minus is just like the first time that I watched the film, I was like, "Oh gosh, like this is what we got. This is what we got." Now, when I rewatched it today, I guess I already knew what I was getting into. I accepted it. I was more happy to see him because I was like, "Oh yeah, Nolan North's in this. Like that's great." So I guess I just leave it at it's more of a, maybe it's a plus minus plus, just so it's like, it's still more positive. Wouldn't that just make it a plus? It's a plus. It's a plus. I was happy to see him in the film. Yeah. Next one is actually another plus. I thought that Nate's double cross, it wasn't even really that bad, but double crossing of Chloe towards the end of the film was actually really good because he finally learned that he cannot trust these people, and so he's like, okay, it, but at the same time, he is like, if she doesn't take it, I could still kind of trust her. Like, I don't know. It was good. It was good because it's like you still saw the good in him, but you also saw he's learned. And so the double crossing I thought was good because he had finally learned, you can't really just outright trust these people. That was a good learning moment, and also felt very Nathan Drake of him to do. Next one is a negative. The last two are negatives actually, one bigger than the other. This was the smaller one. Towards the end of the film, Joe is going to like the wrong location for the treasure, and then Nathan's going to the right location, and Chloe's going to a different wrong location for the treasure. And I'm still confused after seeing this movie twice. So it looks like Joe sees Chloe going to a different wrong location and starts following her, but somehow Joe ends up where Nathan and Sully are at the right location. Like, how did she find that place? That's a little bit confusing to me. And I guess it's not that important in the grand scheme of things. Like, she was gonna have to find them eventually, so they have a big battle at the end. But at the same time, it's like, how did she find that? It's like a little thing that just takes you out of it a little bit. But this next one, it didn't take me out of it until I thought about it after watching, and I was like, dang, that kind of sucks. Was that there was not a whole lot of gunplay from Nathan Drake in this film. And that's not entirely bad, I guess. Like, the combat was it was fine. I think it flowed rather well. But Uncharted is huge on gunplay. That's all Nathan Drake does all day long if he's not solving a puzzle. He is shooting at people. And for the most part, he was just like, doing his martial arts, street fighting, whatever you want to call it. That's what he was fighting with these. He was fighting with these. And Nathan Drake does that. But he usually comes equipped with some weapons, or he will pick up some weapons along the way. And I don't think we really even saw that. Like, even towards the end when he finally like put on the holster, he did not put a gun in the holster. And I think he shot a gun maybe like twice like this. Like, terrible form. I don't shoot guns, but I've watched Nathan Drake shoot guns, and he never shoots like that. And I'm like, why not have this? Like, this is such a small thing, that I feel like it could have just been done. It could have just been done. And I'm like, well, at least Nathan Drake's still shooting guns. He wasn't even shooting guns in this. Overall, I don't think this is a bad film. I think it was all right. Like, you can watch it again and not be like, oh my god, like this film. It's fine. I just don't think it's an Uncharted film. They focused way too much on trying to get these three big set pieces from like the first, second, and third game into this movie so they could have like trailer clips or whatever it is, fan service, whatever you want to call it. And they didn't really think about how to make this a compelling story, like a compelling Uncharted story, and more importantly, a compelling young Nathan Drake story, because that's what they're trying to, like. I don't even know why they tried to tell that lie to fans when clearly they were not doing young Nathan Drake. I don't know why they tried to say that, but I think it would have actually been really interesting and cool if they had done that, because we never really got to see what Nathan Drake was like when he was younger. Much like, Indiana Jones, we don't really get to see much of what he was like when he was younger. So when they expanded on it with like a few scenes in one of the later films, I was like, oh snap, like this is cool. We get to see a little bit of like what makes indie. I would have loved to see what made Nathan Nathan, especially with his brother not being around, like the route that they were going. I think in the games, his brother, he got separated from his brother a little bit later in life. Don't quote me on that. But I think he kind of like grew up with his brother for the most part. So I would have loved to see like how he got to where he got. Um, and a young Nathan Drake story would have been really interesting in my opinion. But I mean, we got what we got. And next Naughty Dog project is The Last of Us show, which I think is coming out this year. And I'm a little bit scared for it as well. What I've seen so far looks cool. And I don't think The Last of Us really has that many like big set pieces like Uncharted did. So at least not that I recognize. So watching the trailer, I'm like, fine, whatever. So we might check that out. We'll see. But yeah, these were my thoughts on the Uncharted film. Some of my, what was it, 13, 14, 15 thoughts? I have no idea. That I wanted to share with y'all because I know I talked about the trailer. Please tell me down in the comments below what you guys thought about this film. Especially if you're Uncharted fans, I'd love to hear your critiques or praises. There's I think some things to be praised for in this film. I don't know what the rights and text for that was, but y'all know what I'm trying to say. I would love to hear what you guys thought. What do you guys think about my thoughts, my critiques? Am I being a little bit too harsh? Am I not being too lenient? Like I could have got even further? I would love to know. And yeah, I think next week I want to maybe dive into the Batman, because that's something else I also talked about, did some trailer talk, but did not go too deep into. Yeah, so October is among us, so it's a perfect time to try and get some spooky stuff in there. I don't know if I'll be doing any scary stuff, but some spooky stuff, I guess. Yeah, so if you enjoyed the video, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe, so that way it helps me grow and helps this community grow, so that way we can reach more people, have some more interesting dialogue. And I'll see you guys next week, where I will do my thoughts / review on the Batman. Hopefully the hurricane will be gone by then. But until then, I hope everybody has a nice evening, morning, night, whatever's enjoyed. I will see y'all next time. Bye.